everybody, welcome to episode 29, nearly in our flirty 30s of Dragoncast. I'm Jamie East, and this is...
Chris Mandle, the fourth sand snake.
Oh, God. How poor must you have to be the fourth sand snake? Oh, dear.
The fourth and sexiest sand snake, I would say.
You have the magic pussy. Welcome. I've made you a little wooden stag.
Thank you. Any reason in particular?
No reason. I'm off for a week, but definitely see you when I get back. Yep, it is that time. It's season 5, episode 9 of our Game of Thrones rewatch, and it is Dance of the Dragons, which is interesting for many reasons. It's Dance of the Dragons, as we know, is the name of the book from which House of the Dragon is taken. So
yeah,
there weren't many spoilers for it though. Kinda,
no,
were there really?
No,
I was a bit disappointed. I thought, we're going to get some juicy details.
I think it's good actually to just start with the title, because it's a really not obvious episode to name after the Dance of the Dragons, the event, which forms the basis of House of the Dragon. I remember watching it the first time way back when and thinking, how can you call it the Dance of the Dragons when there's only one dragon and he doesn't really dance so much as stumble around like a pisshead? And I do think the reference is kind of to like the family turning on family, like no one wins kind of thing. But it's quite abstract considering often they do take the titles a bit more literally, like The War to Come or Hard Home. And then this, you have to really get into the weeds to understand why it's called the Dance of Dragons.
Yeah.
The Dance of the Dragons.
Yes. It was,
what did you think of the episode? Tell me what your thoughts were.
Sorry, we got completely sidetracked when we were recording the episode, and I forgot to say, before we start talking about Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 9, here is a quick recap from our sister podcast previously on. So I'm saying it right now. Here's the recap from our sister podcast previously on. See you in a sec. We begin in the north, where Ramsay and 20 of his men have raided Stannis' camp. With his food burned, weapons destroyed, and hundreds of horses dead, Stannis' army cannot survive. Stannis orders Davos to return to Castle Black and request supplies. Davos asks to take Shireen with him for her safety, but Stannis refuses. Elsewhere in the north, Jon and the wildlings arrive at Castle Black to a frosty reception from the Night's Watch. In Dawn, Jaime explains to Prince Doran that he has come to rescue Myrcella after they received a threat to her life. Doran says he'll allow Myrcella to return with Jaime if Trystane Martell receives Oberyn's old seat on the small council in King's Landing. Jaime agrees. At the harbour in Braavos, Arya, still in training at the House of Black and White, has an opportunity to kill her next target, the Thin Man. However, she's distracted when she spots Sir Meryn Trant, who is escorting Mace Tyrell as he negotiates with the Iron Bank. If you remember, Meryn Trant is the man who killed Syrio Forel, Arya's water dancing instructor back in Season 1. And Arya despises him. He's one of the names on Arya's kill list. So instead of killing the Thin Man as ordered, Arya follows Trant to a brothel where it's revealed he's a paedophile. When she returns to the House of Black and White, Arya lies to Jaqen and says the Thin Man didn't approach her that day. Back in Dawn, Doran forces Ilaria to swear her loyalty to him. Ilaria later apologises to Jaime and says it's not Myrcella's fault that Oberyn died. With Davos gone, Stannis makes an unimaginable choice and allows Melisandre to sacrifice his daughter Shireen to the Lord of Light. Selyse has second thoughts and unsuccessfully tries to rescue her daughter from the pyre, but Stannis insists this is the only way there is power in King's blood. Shireen begs for her life, and in one of the worst scenes in the whole of Game of Thrones, she's burned to death. In Meereen, Daenerys attends the newly reopened fighting pit. It's revealed that Jorah has returned and is fighting, intending to prove his loyalty to Daenerys. He defeats the other fighters and throws a spear into the crowd, killing an assassin sent to murder Daenerys. Sons of the Harpy begin killing members of the crowd and seal the exits, trapping Daenerys and her allies. Surrounded at the centre of the pit, Daenerys resigns herself to death. But then, at the last minute, hears the sound of a roaring dragon. Drogon returns and attacks the Sons, who retaliate by throwing spears, and Daenerys finally climbs on top of a blooming dragon, ordering him to fly her out of danger. Her allies watch in awe as Daenerys becomes the first dragon rider in a century. Yes, Queen! I loved it. It was Game of Thrones at its bleakest, though, wasn't it? It really,
yeah.
It really felt pretty tough for everyone. You know, and it feels like it's the end of. You know, we've talked about chapters in Game of Thrones, almost like eras of Thrones, and this feels very much like the end of. Maybe somebody say it's Halcyon kind of period. It's Imperial phase of Game of Thrones, whereby what I mean is it's just like, you know, Stannis sums it up for me in this episode, because he just looks rough. He just looks fucked. His hair's grown out. His beard's all over the shop. He looks knackered. He just looks like he's really. It looks like he's given up, or rather, as we find out, is, you know, he's got one, maybe two rolls of the dice left, and he's just a very confused man, isn't he?
Yeah, and I, you know, even with the knowledge I have of the show, when we're jumping in on these rewatches, I was took me a minute to be like, what's he doing again? He's going to Winterfell. He's not at the Wall. He's on the way to Winterfell, and he's doing it because he wants to win the North. And he wants to win the North so that he can rally support so he can invade the South. And he's been doing this for like 3 years. It's quite a shock when you think, God, it's really not going that well, is it? Or it's going very slowly at least.
But it's a really good decline, I think. I think we've all been in that situation whereby you start off with all the best intentions, with all full of energy, vim and vigour, trying to do a task, and it really articulates it well over the years. It's like, starts off, it's like, yeah, brilliant, right, all I got to do is get her there and do that, and it's like, great, off we go guys, come on. And it's like, oh no, okay, that didn't work out quite as well, but never mind, we'll just head over there and go and do that. Oh, okay, fine, yeah, he's got a plan. Slight problem, lads. Change of plan. We're going to nip off to there instead and speak to them and see if they can. Oh, okay. Well, okay. That's the third time lucky, though, boss. You know. Bad news, guys. I've found this. I've got this witch, and so she's saying it's you know, and it's just the slow scrabbling around. Plan A turns to Plan B to C to D to E, and we now find him kind of like. Ramsay was able to infiltrate his, 20 men, wasn't he, said?
20 good men. I mean...
20 good men, kind of snuck into the camp, set fire to it, very cleverly, you know, very quickly, which he was just like absolutely befuddled by. But they were literally kicking the camp while it was down, because they look like they're full of pox, full of illness and sickness. Everyone just looks tired and hungry
and a bit smelly. Everyone looks a bit
cold
rough,
and a bit smelly. It just looks awful. You know, it just looks like a miserable camp. So you can kind of see his logic. If you're in a place where you believed in magic, and you had a witch who gave birth to a smoke baby, which is the smoke baby at this point his only offer of proof that the magic exists. I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
The coincidence of, like, you know, of
the
Renly
leeches,
dying and the leeches, all of that kind of stuff is. He's seen a bit of a smoke baby. Could have been on mushrooms. He doesn't really know, but he is being told that he's looking around at his camp. They're not going to see a couple of weeks out, it doesn't look like. He's lost a load of men from this fire from Ramsay Bolton. The vultures are circling. What else does he do? He's still kind of belligerently, I'm the one true king. It's a tough one for him, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd like to think I would throw myself on my sword rather than my daughter. Just saying.
Yeah. I think it's interesting though. The smoke baby is a good point of reference because he didn't see that happen either, though. So it's not as if
did he not? I
no,
thought he was there. Who was there? Was it Davos?
Davos. She goes under the caves, and she's in the cave. They row her in. He just got her pregnant, and then the next day she's like, "Yeah, the baby's gone, and your brother's dead. Better not ask too much about it." But like, she also said, like, "I don't have the energy to keep. I can't keep churning these out for you." That's why they do the leech thing. But yeah, it's really interesting because I mean, he just is so fixated on his belief that he should be king. Everything around him is an accessory to that goal, and even his daughter, which the whole point of succeeding, getting on the throne, is having children to pass on the bloodline. It dies with him whether he gets on the throne or not after this, and it's really like futile. It is the sort of definition of cutting your nose to spite your face. But I think one of the things that really put my nose out is like, they are in the middle of the frozen wastelands between Winterfell and the Wall. So Ramsay's team have able to just popped over in the middle of the night, and they've just burnt all of the food and killed some horses or something silently, and then gone all the way back overnight. And then Davos says, "Oh well, they know the North better than us." Mate, they just fucking moved into that castle a few episodes ago. They're not from here. They don't know where they are. It's as if there's like, oh, well, real Northerners know that if you just take the left road and then bear right. It's like, and obviously the show has to set up the situation as so dire. But Ramsay's not like particularly clever. He's not particularly he's not studied maps or anything. He's just
but also
chopping
a
dicks
camp's
off.
a camp. Camp's a camp, isn't it? You'd guard the camp regardless.
Well, you would, You'd have soldiers. You'd have
Glastonbury doesn't have all the gates at the front and then just some rando at the back smoking roll-ups. It used to.
When it was good.
Until Ramsay Bolton kind of infiltrated the camp.
It's funny, isn't it?
A load of people with Happy Mondays guest passes and shell suits. Yeah.
I like this episode a lot, but I feel like the show is just incapable of holding all the things together, and so it has to do things like this to get us to where we need to be. And at the time, you sort of go, well, it's all going to pay off. But I did watch some of the things in this episode and think, fucking hell, I could have heard about this secondhand. I don't need to see the horse running along on fire to sort of get it. It's like, it's just kind of weird, I think, some of these logical jumps. And I think they're only going to get worse, as it's like, John's just going to pop down to King's Landing and then pop over to Dragonstone and then pop, they just have to they just are running out of time. And I think there's definitely a feeling of time.
Which is weird at season 5 to be thinking, shit, do you think they'd already decided at this point it was going to be 8 seasons?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know.
Because you're saying, because there's no reason to rush otherwise, is there?
Well, this is when they started running out of material.
Yeah, but even so, but you don't start running towards a finish line unless you've actually set the finish line.
That's a good question. How many? I reckon they thought 8. I think they thought 8. What they probably hadn't factored
I bet they
in.
hadn't told HBO though.
Well, what I reckon they were hoping was 8 full seasons, and then they now, season 7 was 7, and then season 8 was 6. So I don't think they were probably counting on that. But I think a big reason that they cut the count down was that obviously the cast get paid per episode, and they were getting it was ballooning
a lot by then.
Some of them were on, oh my god, I'm going to get this wrong, but there's 3 tiers.
Some of them were on $1 million an episode.
Yeah, so there was $1 million, and that was Jon Snow, Cersei, Jaime, Tyrion, Daenerys, Arya and Sansa were on the top less. 8. Yeah, but then you've instantly got $5 million an episode just for a few people, and then you can't do 10 episodes a season, can you? Because that's $50 million just to pay some of the actors.
I'd love to know the reality of those, because you hear about that all the time, don't you? You hear cast of Friends getting XYZ for each episode. This that, you and I know it's never going to be. Kit Harington's not right. Brilliant. Just checking my bank balance. Yeah, £1 million. Thanks very much. Cheers. That's for that episode. It's not going to be quite as simple as that. And also, it might be to Kit's. There's agents and all the rest of it that goes with it. I doubt very much he had £1 million, but I'd love to know what that figure was. I mean, it's the question you can't really ask it, can you? Because realistically, if you were Kit Harington or Amelia Clark or Peter Dinklage, and you thought, right, brilliant, I'm on a million episode now, and I've got a guaranteed 14 episodes left to make, I'd never work again. I would genuinely not work again. I can understand why why Johnny Depp bought an island and just went mental.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because that's exactly what I do. I've been brilliant. I've had one series, and I've made 20 million quid.
Yeah.
What more do I need to do? Why do I need to go make another thing?
Yeah.
You just wouldn't bother. Would you?
You know what? I'm exactly the same. And like when I interviewed Rupert Grint in January for GQ, like I think he got 16 million for one of the final two films. So he probably got the same for both, I reckon. So like, let's say 32 million, right? For two of those films. Everything in the world, like everything you and I spend money on, if you have that much money, like a McDonald's is literally like spending like 3 pence. Like everything.
If it's not even that. Not even that. It doesn't even crack a
You could buy a fucking sports car. The way that, you and I, when we go into town, right, and we might, if we're feeling fancy, we might splurge on like a proper fancy pair of jeans or something, like a really nice pair of trainers.
A pair of trainers.
To people like who are earning this kind of money, you can do that with a house, like a really big house. Or I think the scale of it blows my mind, and I think to your point, you wouldn't work again. I mean, some of these guys haven't done a lot of work since Game of Thrones, and I think part of that is the payoff where they're like, I might not get a well-paying job for 5 years.
My career. I'm forever going to be Jon Snow. Yeah, and
secondary to which, Kit Harington obviously did Eternals, and he was like the 13th down on the cast list, right? I don't know if you've seen that Marvel film, The Eternals.
Yeah. He was
Angelina
in the
Jolie,
post-credits.
Richard Madden, Gemma Chan, Barry Keoghan, Brian Tyree Henry.
But he's being set up as a future thing, though, right?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, there's
same
like
as Harry Styles did.
Yeah, but 3 years out, no sign of these being developed, right? So it might happen.
No,
but my point is, Kit Harington is in that film for like 17 minutes.
Yeah.
I'd love to know what he got paid for that. How do you calculate how much to pay Jon Snow for a bit part in a Marvel film? I mean, it's maybe like maybe a week's filming.
I reckon he probably did it for gratis, to be honest.
Really?
Presumption. Well, it'll be part of some development thing, won't it?
Yeah.
Like kind of come and do 6 days filming for Eternals. We're launching you as the future. I can't even remember what his part was. Not Hercules. That was
like
Harry
Black
Styles,
Knight
or something like that. That's kind of got some kind of like interesting folklore and could be the next Black Panther or whatever. But it's weird. I'd be amazed. Yeah, it wouldn't have been a lot, I bet.
No. As you said, though, when Chris Evans did Captain America, he didn't get paid per film. He got paid for a 9-film contract. So he's just on the payroll, like, every year for, like, And then they call him up and they go, look, we need you to come down to Atlanta where we've got the soundstage. It's all CGI. And he's like, what film's this for? And they're like, we don't know yet, but you're going to have to fight this thing on a tennis ball and we'll put it in somewhere. Like, that's just how it works.
Grim.
It's
that's
so...
gotta be grim.
Yeah. I'd love to know. I do find like where the money goes in this industry like very interesting.
Crazy.
Anyway, back to Dance of the Dragons.
That's the thing.
Yeah. I thought this was a really good episode. I thought it's fascinating to me that like haven't seen Sansa, haven't seen Ramsay, haven't seen Cersei, haven't seen Littlefinger. Like haven't seen Brienne. There's quite a lot we haven't seen because I think at this point the show is really stretched and some people just don't appear. But I loved what we saw. I thought it felt really... I did think it felt like the stuff that was in this episode felt like it was all kind of part of the same like thematic idea.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It was a well-written episode. Yeah. So we started off with Stannis. We kept, and it did what it does well is kind of like starts like hinting that bad things are. I mean, the whole Shireen storyline in this is just kind of like, oh dear, this is not looking good. I mean, I remember watching it the first time. I was like, yeah, she's fucked. I mean, the second that she starts second anyone starts planning for the future in a show like this, it's immediately kind of like, you're screwed, mate. So the second she started promising to teach Davos to read the Dance of Dragons, oh, don't worry, I'll read it to you next week. It's like, oh, God. But through all of the Shireen thing, you know, Davos, I'm a bit confused. Was he just being so faithful to Stannis still that he didn't do anything? Because he left knowing full well what was going to happen.
Yeah, so he was sent away, right?
He was sent away because Stannis knew that Davos would go fucking ballistic.
And he kept being like, let me take
no other
Shireen
way, just to get out of the way. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's also, you know, I think on some level, it's like, yeah, he might try and get in the way, but I honestly think on some level, it's like the show needs him at the wall when Jon gets stabbed. Like, on some level, it's like quite...
Right, okay.
Do you know, like, they just have to lay the tracks a bit, you know? And the Stannis stuff, you know, Stannis does get killed by the end of the season, his wife dies. So Davos can't be around there because he would just not survive. So that's something I feel a bit more aware of watching this season, is a bit more moving people into place in a way that earlier in the show it just felt quite normal and natural. I think it feels a bit more like you can see the pieces moving more. But maybe that's just because we know where it goes. Like, we know Davos is instrumental to Jon coming back in season 6.
True. But I thought, I mean, it was bleak as fuck, but I thought the scene of Shireen on the stake was exquisitely made. It was really wretched to watch again. It didn't feel any easier. It was, Melisandre seemed really creepy. There was that great shot of her kind of just appearing from the you were POVing from Shireen. She was walking towards, saw the stake, and then Melisandre just appears, and it was like, oh fuck. And that was the moment Shireen knew what was going on. But it was just like, I thought Kerry, the young girl who plays Shireen, did it really well. You know, she had just that.
She's
nice,
amazing.
Innocent. Oh, just off on a nice little trot around with me. Got my wooden stag in my hand. What's my dad asking to do? I've said I'll do anything for him. It's going to be nice. It's going to be a thought park.
The worst part is when she's like, look, I just want to help. Like, what do you need me to do? Like, if it makes you happier, I'll do it. And it's like, mate, you're literally convincing him to burn you alive. You don't realise.
I know. Stephen Delane plays an absolute blinder, though. I mean, you feel his conflict. You know, it's everything in that scene is just fucking miserable and just done brilliantly. Even the extras watching, you know, it must have been a real tough shoot. I can imagine that being a really grim shoot.
Yeah. I mean, the screaming is just unbearable. I mean, I knew it was coming and I found it unbearable.
It's just where you can hear the change in the screams when the flames meet her. You know,
oh my god, that's so true. What you can, because obviously it cuts away, we don't see it, but as you said, from the intonation, you can go, oh, she's on fire now.
Yeah,
the moment when it's not just fire around her, and that is so grim. But I think what was really exciting when I first watched this was, again, this is something that's not in the books yet, and to see the show doing big swings. And doing these big, it was really shocking because I kept thinking, he's going to break, he's going to save his daughter. That's what this is leading to. But no, like he had more, his wife even sort of, it's Selyse, isn't it? His wife, even she sort of goes, oh, I'm having second thoughts and collapses. And she's the one that's the fanatic Lord of Light follower.
Yeah, he's kind of like overtaken her on the loony side. Yeah.
Stannis, it's too important.
She dies in the next episode, right? She kills herself, doesn't she?
She kills herself off screen.
That's oh yes, yeah, that's right.
Which I think is so interesting. Again, in a kind of like we don't know what to do with her, or like just have her die off screen. I mean, it's fine. It seems to make sense, but also think
Well, I think it's just it completely just ends the whole Baratheon bloodline, doesn't it? With her gone. And then she kills herself, and then Stannis goes. It's just like a neat little ties it in a bow.
It does, yeah. Everything's lost.
There's no one lingering around who actually may have a claim.
This is like a bit presumptuous of me to be like, here's what they should have done, but I do feel like I really think Stannis was such a good character. I really wish he had taken on Ramsay this season, won, and then next season is like, shit, Stannis is like kind of taken over the castle. He wants to go south. Jon and Sansa having to deal with him. I thought that would be really interesting. I think Ramsay continuing to be like the villain is just doesn't interest me that much.
Well, given the choice between Stannis being and seeing Stephen Delane for another 10 episodes would have been great. Yeah,
would have been
kind
good.
of descending into his absolute madness. At what cost is that's his whole thing, isn't it?
Very Shakespearean, isn't it?
Oh yeah, and
so
oh man, Stephen Delane, what a guy!
We should also talk about the.
Terrifying.
Oh, you should wait to say that again.
I say I'd love to interview Stephen Delane. Never got a chance. I can imagine him being absolutely terrifying.
Yeah, he never did. Never did the show.
He refused. He didn't do any press. He just doesn't do any press. Just doesn't give a shit. It's like, wow. I'm sure he does give a shit, but he never did any press for Game of Thrones. I don't think he even went to any of the premieres. He's like, you've got. I think he's just genuinely, because I remember. I think, and I'm not naming any names, but I remember he did the Sky Atlantic series, which was the remake of the Bridge, but it was called The Tunnel with Clemence Posey.
Yes, I remember
Sky
that.
Atlantic,
Yeah,
I think maybe the year after Stannis died, and I don't think he even did any press for that. I think he's just genuinely. It's a bit like Sean Bean, I think, in the sense where you look at him and you go, my God, he must really kind of like study his craft and kind of like live that roles. And I think he's just the complete opposite. I think he's like Brian Cox, where he's just like, what the fuck are you talking about? I get it. I learn my lines. I stand up. I read my lines. I go home.
And there's a certain generation of actors that sort of see the more you explain the job, the less impactful or effective it is. The job exactly. is to do the job and go home.
Yeah. And also, I don't think in the same way as Sean Bean, I can't see them at a Comic-Con relishing the prospect of like 500 people queuing up for that I don't think the fandom makes much sense to him. So,
yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right.
I would have loved to have just chatted to him but I suspect it would have been. We had, and you're right, it's a generational thing. We had Mark Addy came on for the final ever episode of Dragoncast. Lovely fella, fucking loved being King Robert. Absolutely loved it. Loved the whole thing. But he was still very kind of perplexed by the whole thing as well. He was kind of like, I've watched a few. I'll watch it. I had fun. I can remember having a laugh with Lena. It was a fucking good crack. But to tell you the truth, Jamie, I've not paid much attention to it the past 10 years. It's gone well, hasn't it? It's a bit like that. It's like, yeah, it's done all right.
It doesn't. Yeah. I mean, he must have only been in 6 episodes, something, right?
Yeah, exactly. But it was kind of like, I can barely, it's like, oh, what were you thinking about Robert? It's like, what was his surname again? It's like Baratheon. Baratheon, that were it. Baratheon.
That's so funny.
Couldn't remember. Great, but played it really well. And it's the same thing. It's a generational thing. It's like,
I think so.
They just rock up and have a crack. It's a bit like Samuel L. Jackson. I imagine Samuel L. Jackson is a bit like that around Star Wars, around Marvel, around Pulp Fiction, around all these kind of like iconic parts he's played. It's like, yeah, he's a Kyle. Sure. What was it? 2570? Yeah, vaguely remember.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing.
We've done the North.
North is done.
I think we should go south and talk about Dawn.
Oh, it's like. I said this episode was bleak, and I meant for many reasons. This really has not improved at all. This whole thing.
Yeah.
What was I've written here, ask Chris why on earth this is even here. What is the purpose of this storyline other than to maybe Marcella death, perhaps?
Well,
kind of it.
Yeah, okay, so we do have to talk about the books a little bit to answer. And basically, they had to adapt this storyline for the show. And in doing so, they got rid of the two characters in the Dornish storyline that are actually interesting. And in the books, it's all about... in both the book and the show, it's like, okay, what is Oberyn Martell's family? How do they react to him dying, like in season 4? And I think the show, they've tried to sort of smooth it down to be like a very basic revenge story. They want revenge, but they shouldn't, because they should play politics. And that's kind of what we watch happen. Ilaria wants revenge. She, in this episode, relents and says no.
Yeah.
Next episode, I think they poison Marcella as retribution.
She does it brilliantly. She has the poison on her lips, doesn't she?
Yeah, sort of with some sort of lipstick, or I don't know, which comes back. That's how Cersei ends up killing her daughter in the final season, or in season 7. So that's going to show that it's just really basic. They want revenge, they don't get it, and I think in the book it's far more about, like, first of all, like, there's just more characters and they're just better written. But in the books, it is, to be fair, like, if you've spent 3 books reading about Arya and Brienne and Sansa and Cersei, you do spend like a lot of the book reading about all these new people, and it had a similar response sometimes. People kind of felt like, oh, who are all these people and what's going on? The key difference, though, is that in the books, they're secretly planning to marry into the Targaryens and help the Targaryens come back to Westeros and take over. So there's like a really exciting, So Doran Martell, who's the ruler of the house, his son has gone over to try and marry Daenerys. So he's gone over to Meereen, and he does succeed. And it's just really exciting when you read it. You're like, oh shit, she's actually got allies in Westeros, and they're really formidable. They're really good warriors. And instead, we just have, what the show did was they were like, we should probably have Jaime and Bronn go over there, so we've got a familiar face among all the new people, which I think was a good idea. But I mean, nothing's happening. I watched it and thought, it just seems like too many characters. None of them are really the focus. The Sand Snakes are
none
just
of them
dreadful.
particularly interesting.
No, I don't think so. It's so flattened. It's so flattened and I think the girls, the Sand Snakes, of which there are 3, or even just from this episode, I can tell that on the show, they responded so intensely to the criticism of the treatment of women in Game of Thrones that they've got these 3 like sassy Gal Friday kind of spear-toting babes, and it's like
with agency and all of that.
Right, and it's just so far the other way that it's honestly like I'm going to be rude here and say it's the sort of acting that I imagine you get in like porn set in Westeros. Like,
I imagine, he saes, never just watched any Game of Thrones porn. Come on.
Well, not the ones with women in it, I can assure you. Do you know what I mean? It's just so wooden, and it's like there's just no texture to anything.
Yeah, and I feel bad for them, because I'm sure, what Jessica, who was one of the Sand Snakes, who
Henwick
came on Game of Thrones, she's done brilliantly.
She's in the new Matrix film. She's in the
Matrix film. She's in Star Wars. She was in, she's done tons of stuff. So it's not acting talent. I just think you're right. It was a bit. It's an opportunity to level out the criticism a little bit, but just it wasn't. It's not its fine. It's not. Dawn is not this series' finest hour by any stretch of the imagination. We luckily we missed the pussy episode. That was the previous one.
Yeah, and it's a real test. Because part of me thought, well, look, if they're going to go over there and do the locations, they're investing in shooting out there. Like, they have to just play it out. They can't. But then at the start of season 6, the first episode of season 6, Elaria Sand kills Doran Martell and says, like, we will not listen to men anymore. And it's like, I'm sorry, you kill the ruler of Dawn. What? Like, it's so stupid. It's so...
Now what?
The show... exactly. And she doesn't do anything until the end of season 6, when her and Olenna Tyrell and the Greyjoys join Daenerys. They have that whole thing at the end of season 6. Great. But you're like... Game of Thrones did get to this point, and I think the Red Wedding sort of tipped over, where they were like, everything needs to be a big what the fuck moment. And so you get a glimpse of this already, like with the way they bump off Marcella, which is sort of like ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit. It does get a bit soap opera-y, isn't it? Yeah,
a bit. Yeah, yeah. So I think the shoot, the location is incredible. The palaces and everything. I think Seville that they shot some of Dawn in.
Yeah,
and that Tristan Martel, who I mentioned last week, that guy is Florence Pugh's brother.
Ah, yes, I remember you saying. There we go. Who just gave up acting?
Can't remember his name. I think he's now a musician, but he gets press. He does bits and pieces here and there.
Fair play to him.
So yeah, I didn't love Dawn. I think the next episode where they sort of tie it all up, where they go on the boat back to Westeros, I don't like. It's just a shame because I think it's really cool, and I think it's just hard, adapting. At this point, when you're editing this kind of stuff for the show, you can't just do what they've been doing seasons 1 to 4 and put it on the screen. You have to make big changes.
Trying to work out from a tonal point of view, I wonder if it's in there just because the rest is so bleak. We've got, whether it is just a bit of kind of like, let's just put something a little bit tally-ho in there just to break up. Even from a visual point of view, the colouring is so different. It's bright, it's yellow, it's golden, it's reds. Everything else is blue, grey and brown. I think just maybe. Who knows?
Maybe.
Because
I think also, like, if they daren't include it, right? Can you imagine if they just cut the whole thing?
If what, sorry?
They just cut Dawn out completely, or like moved it to next season.
But that's the thing. You could have removed the whole of Dawn.
Yeah,
could have just taken it out. Oberyn could have popped up. We never really needed to see where he came from. It was just a nice.
Or you have Daenerys meeting them in season 6, and they're like, we want revenge against the Lannisters too. Like, you could actually just... They're given so little in this season that I think you don't need to build up to the eventual meeting. And also, in season 7, they get taken off the map really fucking quickly.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, so, it was a bit of light relief, I guess, where it's... Well, not really that light. But we then popped over to Bravos.
Yeah.
And I do like this. It feels. I don't know whether it's because the reason I don't like Dawn is just the way that they shoot the sunshine and the hot kind of thing. Maybe it's just a personal taste preference. I like the bleakness of Westeros rather than the opulence of the palaces and stuff like that. Maybe it's a bit of that because I do like Bravos and I like this storyline. I like Arya's journey. So we're at the stage now in Arya's journey to becoming a faceless person, where she's got to decide. It's all about, can she become no one? And this is the episode where she realizes that she can't, or she can't yet. That's right, because by as if by chance, as if by magic, shows you what and it is. Ain't Westeros small? She's just about to have a conversation with the oyster guy on the harbour, where she's got to kill him, and lo and behold, Meryn fucking Trant pops up. Our friend of the show, Meryn Trant pops up. Now, does that happen in the books? Is that a bit of a coincidence?
No, this is adapted. She kills a deserter from the Night's Watch instead, who in the books is going on a journey with Sam and Gilly and the old man, the Maester Aemond.
Aemond.
They all leave the Wall, and Sam goes to Bravos on the way to Old Town, where he ends up going in season 6. It's quicker to take a boat, basically. Gotcha. So they stop off at Bravos, and the Night's Watch recruiter that comes with them breaks his vows, shags prostitutes, gets drunk, and Arya kills him for sort of like retribution, which is kind of
well. Actually, this then is quite a good addition, quite a good
much better, I
change.
Think. Yeah. I can't remember what her and Meryn Trant. Does she just know him as being in the Kingsguard?
No, didn't Meryn Trant killed the guy who taught her to sword fight?
Oh shit! Of course, Syrio Farrell. Yeah. Yes.
Syrio Farrell.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Sorry, that completely. I knew he was important, but
Yeah, he was on her list. So Meryn Trant was part of the King's Guard when
That's right.
When they grabbed people from Winterfell, wasn't it? No, King's
When
Landing.
they killed the Starks and
right.
stuff, right? They wiped the Starks out.
A bit tits up,
and it's a really good change, I think.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the scene. You know, I mean, he hated talking about the fact that he was playing an horrible nonce, but he did it. He was such a good actor. He played it so well, didn't he?
I think that's really interesting, though. They have to give her an even bigger reason to want to wipe him out, which is that he's a pedo. And
did we not know that already? No, we didn't, did we? He just.
I don't think so, because I just thought the way that he kept saying too old. I was like, okay, this is getting very, very dicey. But I think that's up the ante, and they make it out as it's actually a moral duty to kill him because he's a monster. But I kind of would love the stakes to have almost been a bit lower, and for him to have. He doesn't have to be molesting children for her to want to kill him. But I suppose it does drive. I mean, people are in danger as long as he's alive, so she's obviously driven to do that. And yeah, I love that. So him and Mace Tyrell are over to get a loan or to get more money from the bank. So we got to see Mark.
I love that Tyrell guy. He plays such a divvy, kind of like bumbling. It's a really good character. Actually, he's been in loads. If any of people that aren't in the UK, the actor that plays him has been in like tons of like British rom-coms and sitcoms, and he's like one of a kind of our classic character actors that just pops up playing similar kind of roles. I'm sure he was probably in 4 Weddings and a Funeral somewhere.
He often does stuff like Julia Davis stuff. In 90 Night, wasn't he? And I think he was one of her other shows. But I loved the thing that the thing I really loved about it is they were saying, oh, you know, some men get their hands chopped off. And he goes, oh, that'll be terrible business for the Glovers.
Oh, yeah. It was
it's just such good dialogue, like
Mark
campy
Gatiss.
and
Just Is this the first time we see Mark Gatiss as the banker?
No, we see him in season 4 because Stannis tries to get a loan off them.
That's it. Yeah.
Stannis goes over and he sort of is like, we're not in the risk. We're not in the business of hedging bets, I think is always.
I love the Iron Bank because it really does kind of bring home the economics of war quite well.
Yeah,
and also shows that is there anyone that isn't in debt to the bank? The Tyrells, are they independently wealthy, or are
the
they?
Tyrells are fine. Yeah, the Crown is in a lot of debt. Other, I don't think like the Northerners. I think most places are quite self-sufficient, but the Crown is in debt to them. Stannis is in debt to them, and so they're sort of. This is why they're trying to negotiate better. Maybe we can sell you some more of our wine from the Reach, and but it's funny, isn't it? Even in this sort of period, capitalism. It's like the people with the money are the ones that will fuck you over because they'll. Yeah. I think the sort of
Tyrell. So the Tyrell fella isn't there on behalf of the Tyrells. Then he's on behalf of the Crown.
He's on behalf of the Crown. He's Master of Coin.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, my mistake. Yeah.
But Mace Tyrell, like he's barely in it. We don't really spend any time with him as a character. He's literally, he could be a generic messenger. Do you know what I mean? Like they just did it because they've got your man on the payroll. They thought, oh yeah, this makes sense. But he'd have gone as there to represent King's Landing, and I think the Bravos stuff generally is I agree with you. I think it's so good, but I think the reason is we've got a character to follow through, like Arya. We see it through her eyes.
Yeah.
But it's outside. There's loads of different people from all walks of life. And I just feel like we've already got such a rich sense of this culture from 2 episodes because we're out on the streets, we're seeing the architecture. Whereas with Dawn, it's just a load of people in a palace. And I don't really know, and I find all this stuff interesting. I'm like, what do the cities look like? What is going on?
Yeah.
Like,
that's why I always liked it. That's why I liked it in House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon, we saw a lot of flea bottom and the kind of the perimeters of King's Landing. That was great. I really enjoyed that.
Yeah. So I think Bravos has been really good. I don't like where it does go where the other assassin comes in who's got the severe haircut.
Your Terminator
I don't like any
assassin.
of that. Yeah, the Terminator one. But
it feels
again,
like
Go on.
We have an inherent problem in drama, like whether it's on cinema or on television, is that we just cannot get past, and no one's really come up with a better solution than the final boss level scene. You know, it happens in every single superhero. It's always an angry single person who wants to destroy everything, or it's someone. It's a vengeful character. It's your nemesis. It's the nemesis thing, and this is the nemesis. You know, with Daenerys, it ends up being the Thanos. I just want to destroy everything.
Yeah.
And with this one, it's the nemesis thing. No one's really come up with a better enemy than that. And the problem with having that nemesis is that it's the same with the Mountain and the Hound. It's the same. You know, is that all you start leaning towards is a final showdown, and which is just boring because you kind of. I'm not really that interested in watching fights. It doesn't really interest me as a visual spectacle. It's kind of like, well, okay, I reckon Arya's going to win because I know that she's going to be around. You know, they're not going to kill Arya.
I do think I didn't like it at the time, but the season 6 that final chase through Bravos, I like because Arya kind of kills her in the dark, doesn't she? Do you remember? She sort of
Oh yeah,
it's actually done. It's done quite. And I think at the time I was like, "What a cop out!" And I think when we go to rewatch it, I think we'll both be like, "Oh, this is actually quite weird." And the way she smears blood on the walls to lead her in, I think it's actually quite good. But yeah, there's the bit that it has that I hate is oh my god, I've just fallen onto a crate of oranges and oranges are falling down the stairs. You know, it's just like. Yeah. Why? It's like the Fast and the Furious films. They always drive through a fucking van full of oranges. It's just like something out of Mr. Bean or something.
I agree. I still do love Jack and Nick. He knows at this point that when she bullshits him about the guy wasn't there today. Tomorrow he's a bit like okay, whatever you say. I'll humour you.
And it's kind of almost a test. I like the fact that it's like, okay, you are supposed to kill one person and this temptation has come your way and this is a real test of whether you stick to the job. It feels, I didn't think I liked this storyline as much previously, but I like it. I think it works.
So I'd even forgotten before this rewatch that Arya lost her sight. I'd completely forgotten. It's like, okay, so, and then we lead towards the climax of the episode, which we're over in Marine. The fucking Sons of the Harpy. I had to
actually Google like who they were because I was like, what is the problem again with this
insurgent rebellion within?
They're all the former noblemen that reject her ruling Marine. And they're trying to kill her.
Yeah.
This actually speaks to what you just said about like superhero films and all the big IP always has to end with a big fight. And I thought the stuff in Colosseum and before Drogon got there, I was like, oh, this is so boring. But also, they're all just faceless threats. There's no character there that's really compelling.
The problem with enemies that wear masks like that, where they're not expressive masks, is that the only way of conveying any type of thing is by massively overacting. So you've got all these people wearing these like solid gold masks, and they're just behaving like they're not moving like normal humans move. Everything's kind of like,
oh, that's so true. Yeah.
And it's like no one moves. You're in a fucking battle with spears. You don't kind of go.
Yeah.
Start.
It's so Amram, isn't it? It's like, oh my god, that your physical.
But I can see what they have to do is because they're wearing fucking stupid masks.
I tell you what I don't get though. No, I tell you what I don't get is when they all start hissing when they come out of the crowd. Was that the soundtrack or did they all start making some?
They all started hissing. I think it was
like
very weird. I mean, it's just I did ask. So with all of this, I wrote down what are the themes of this episode. Like you said, like the title's Dance of Dragons doesn't really relate to the theme of the episode. But what is it? Is it betrayal? Is it treachery? Is it trust no one?
I think it's sacrifice. Seems like a big sacrifice like a big thing to me. Like, what are you willing to give up in pursuit of power, of peace? Like, Stannis has literally burnt his daughter alive because he thinks that's the only way. Daenerys,
is Arya willing to sacrifice her list? Yeah,
exactly. Is she willing to let go of the anger that has sort of been the only constant in her life in order to become nothing? And actually, is becoming nothing. It's the classic thing of like, you can get blackout drunk or you can deal with your feelings, but covering them up doesn't make them go away. It just covers them up. And that's kind of what I think she's going through. And I think the other thing is, I mean, we haven't spent any time with Daenerys, but she's married that guy that she was sat next to. She married a nobleman.
Oh shit! The guy from Horrible Histories. Yeah.
Joel's someone, isn't he?
Yeah.
So she's married into. He's a nobleman. He's from a rich family. She's married into him because the Sons of the Harpy said that would stop the violence, and she doesn't want to. She's in love with Dracarys, and she also knows that she can't go to Westeros as a foreigner, in air quotes, and be married to someone from Essos and then conquer. She needs to be single to marry into a rich family. So she's had to sacrifice a lot to get peace.
And then Essos? Also, or have I got my places confused? Is that Essos?
Yeah. Marine is.
Oh shit! Essos. Sorry, not Marine. Sorry, my mistake. Don't write.
Well, no. Essos is the continent.
Oh, Marine's within Essos.
Yeah. So you have Westeros, and then Essos is east, and that's where Pentos, Marine, all of those places are. Everywhere.
I never was any good at geography. Yeah.
Don't worry, that's the only two major continents in this story. But yeah, I think sacrifice is a big one, and I think what are people willing to do to get what they want? Even when she leaves on the Drogon, it's kind of like it feels like she's embraced the dragon at the expense of her political career because she's left that place in an even worse situation because she's fucked off.
And she did a runner with left them all in the. There's that great line from Smash. You've left me in the fucking shit. It's like she just sods off and does a runner.
It's a bit of a, and I think because she's so focused, you know, her dragon got a few arrows to the neck, and she's sort of like, shit, I need to look after him. And I thought, like, you know, seeing her like enjoying him torching the Sons of the Harpy, I saw a lot of like where she ends up in the show, which is I've tried to be nice, I've tried to be good, and people don't love me. Like I'm gonna have to just burn them all.
Fucking the Jorah again. The Jorah thing was pretty good. You know, it's just him worming his way back in. Is that him in for good now? Is he now a good guy? They held hands.
She sends him away again. She sends him away again to go and get his grayscale healed.
Oh, that was right. But yeah, you can understand that. You know, he's come back. She's let her ex-boyfriend back, but he's got the clap. So she's gone, you can go and get some cream for that, mate. Yeah.
Then I'll take you back. But, you know, for us, because we're watching a few episodes, like we've only just seen him get binned off 2 weeks ago. So a lot of that is, you know, it's like, oh God. Like,
yeah, we've not felt his pain, have we?
No.
And Grey Worm was still injured from the death of Sir Barristan Stelmy. So
that was episode 4. So this is now 5 episodes later. Now, did Jacob have another job booked, do we think? Is that why he's not around?
Did he do... Was this not when he recorded... This may have been when he did Bloodsport.
Oh, maybe.
Maybe it was around that time he had his big hit.
Yeah.
I can't imagine... or maybe it was just written like that. I don't know. I can't imagine Jacob have gone, look, guys, I'm sorry. I just can't film, you know.
It's weird though, isn't it? Because would it be like literally like a visa, like, you know, something as stupid as like his Esther had expired and he couldn't get back out there? Because for me, like, I remember the set pictures leaking that showed Tyrion joined Daenerys and Grey Worm wasn't there. So everyone was like, oh, he's going to get killed this season. And I interviewed him at the time for Shortlist, and I was like, you know, I heard you're not in some of the big... he didn't have any scenes with Peter Dinklage in season 5, and he was like, I think I've got some with him in season 6, so I'm looking forward to that. I was like, ooh, it's exciting.
Weird.
But I thought actually what I liked you know, when there was like they were all escaping from the Sons and the Harpy in the Colosseum, like Missandei and Tyrion and Jorah, and there was a good little gang actually. I didn't appreciate that.
It was.
And I thought, oh yeah, she's actually got a good little gang here.
She's surrounded. Now, is this a bit of a precursor to House of the Dragon here? We saw Drogon arrives, who looks so small.
So small, doesn't
like,
he?
Oh, look at little baby Drogon. Dreadful CGI in one shot where he first appears, like really, really bad.
I know.
It was so bad.
Yeah.
It got better in later on. But was this the first example that we'd seen as fans of Game of Thrones of the rider creating that link between rider and dragon? We saw Aegon doing it with Vhagar in House of the Dragon.
Yeah. I think it's probably the first time, yeah.
This was that moment, wasn't it? Because Drogon was quite cross with her at first, but she held her ground, and it was that similar kind of like we've got to pair Bluetooth here, you know.
Yeah, you're right. We've not seen her, you know, in House of the Dragon. They have a much better understanding of like claiming bonding with the dragon, as you said,
how to do it. Yeah,
and with Daenerys, you know, she ostensibly like gave birth to them, like she hatched the eggs with that fire, but she never actually earned them in a sense. And that's, you know, they've all been a bit rabid, haven't they? Two of them are still locked in the pyramid, I think. And Drogon all this season has been sort of flying away from her or not.
So she's never really taken control of them. She's fed.
Yeah, I never thought of that. That's a really good point. We've never seen her actually. But this is the thing: is she's so out of the loop on her customs of her family, or like what
it doesn't exist, does it? You know, it's just
exactly.
Maybe that's.
But
ties into
it was a big
Shireen reading about it. That actually
a big
Shireen's
moment.
got all of the knowledge. Yeah,
I know. And now, you know, I don't know what they're going to do with those books.
Now
Probably
she's on
chuck
fire.
them out. But there's two. We haven't really gone into more detail about that House of the Dragon references. There was two, wasn't there? One that she said was that someone polished his shield so much that it looked like a mirror.
Sir Byron Swan.
Yeah, who I don't know who that is, and used it to kind of blind the dragon or
make the dragon think it was looking at it. Yeah,
which sounds like something out of like King Arthur, doesn't it? Like,
it sounds not true.
I think and then we've just got Rhaenyra and her half brother Aegon.
Yeah.
Brother turned on brother, sister turned on sister, and it brought the family down, which we could have told you, we could have said that was going to happen. We knew that was going to happen, but she sort of says that like, I think Stannis says that like, who would you have backed, like Rhaenyra or Aegon? And she said neither, because the whole problem is choosing one over the other. Like no one wins. They should have reconciled. And I thought that is really interesting, because that's what we're going to see as the Dragon. That this is not about supporting one team over the other. It's that they're never going to, I presume, never come together and unite, and it's going to tear the whole thing apart.
True.
It's really interesting.
And then
interesting that they just mentioned that, you know.
Yeah, no, it is. But not quite the same spoilery ones that we saw Joffrey. We heard from Joffrey earlier on.
Yeah, so and that's the same thing, right? Joffrey said that Aegon fed Rhaenyra to his dragon in that episode.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah. This was just a bit more,
because it was a bit more vague. Because we said at the time, I think we talked about what does that mean for Rhaenyra, and I said, wouldn't it be cool if they were like, well, that the history book says, but that's not what happened, or they just lean into her. Yeah, rather as like a.
Well, it shows that actually it's that Dance of the Dragons, the book, is more of a. Some of it's fables, because if you believe that fucking Mr. Swan polished a mirror to defeat a dragon, get over yourselves. But that, you know, so how much? So if you don't believe, if someone's written that, then who's to say that Rhaenyra was fed to a dragon? You know.
Well, if Shireen had kept reading, it would have said, "Oh, this account of it was written by Balon's wife, who said he was really fit as well when he died, and he just looks great, and he had a massive dick."
Yeah, exactly.
He sounds a great guy.
But good ep. Good, lots going
really
on.
Good.
Lots to chat about. Enjoyed that. Really enjoyed that.
And I think next episode is also amazing, isn't it? Isn't the next episode supposed to be really good?
we're into episode 10 of season 5, which is poor Jon Snow. Never going to see him again.
Oh yeah, we didn't talk about him, but we just had a brief sight of him saying he failed. He felt like he failed the wildlings. He's failed his brothers.
Yeah, Oliver wasn't happy with him. Yeah,
oh,
that was
sick of that
it.
little.
And it
sick of that little.
Ain't gonna get any better for him next week. That's for sure. Though at least he gets to get his head down for a bit.
Indeed.
So, bit of House of the Dragon news. Exciting.
Yes.
So I saw on some accounts that Matt Smith was at some former. He loves a Comic Con, doesn't he, Matt Smith?
Oh, yeah.
Was at a little signing thing and said to someone he's received all of his scripts for season 2 of House of the Dragon, and shooting is starting in less than a month.
Because it was supposed to be March, and they said it might have to be April. Like the filming.
So it is April. Yeah.
And
so
I also saw one site reporting June 2024 as premiere.
Yeah, which is just strange.
Yeah, but
it's
it's
a long way
expensive. You
away
only have to
still.
look at how shit the dragon stuff looked in this episode to see why they're obviously having to put more money into it.
Yeah. No, fair enough. And you know, if we're going to see, we'll probably see even more of the dragons this time. So yeah,
I don't think it's going to go on more than 4 seasons. You know.
No, I don't either.
I think
maybe
4,
even 3.
18 months apart, 4 seasons seems to me. I just think with Succession ending after 4 as well, it's like the thing to do is to go in with right intention, go in, commit to it, get out, rather than let's do this as long as we can. I think I get the impression as well. I think it's a smaller story in terms of like this, then this, then this, then this.
It's one single war. Yeah, it's one
exactly.
single war between 2 sides rather than multiple wars from multiple threats between multiple families. Yeah. Has there? I mean, yeah, get in, get out. That's what it's all about. I mean, has there been? I can't think of an example where a series has been open-ended and still successfully managed to weasel its way out of it. I can't think that there has been.
No, I think also now Stranger Things is a great example. Like that show has been on for like 7 years, and the cast get more money every year. The budgets go up, the expectations go up. It's just unsustainable, and I think that couldn't go on.
But the return stops. It stops. There's only one place that Stranger Things can go. You know.
Yeah.
It probably, it arguably reached its peak season 3. Stranger Things in terms of public interest, in terms of the cool factor, in terms of the zeitgeist. Just seems to be It seems to be fucking dragging, doesn't it?
Dragging on. This is it, because one of the reasons I stopped watching that show though was that every season it felt like the same thing was happening, where it's like the same threat, the same scale.
Everything's okay. Oh no, there's some tentacles appearing in a fucking
demagogue,
shed.
and I think I've just fucking watched this. Like, so yeah. Anyway, well,
the nemesis factor. Yeah. Okay. Wonderful stuff. Apologies, as ever. There are always apologies in this podcast. I forgot to publish the OA episodes 1 and 2 last week. That is coming out this Thursday. I'm really sorry. Part 2, episodes 1 and 2 is out this week. We are going to record OA episodes 3 and 4, and that will come out next week. So just apologies. We're a week behind, but you know what? Tough. Ask for a refund. What's the rest of your week look like, Chris?
Joe, I've actually got quite a quiet week. I just reviewed this documentary. I probably can't talk about it yet because of embargoes. I'll next week. This documentary that I fucking hated. I don't know if I can say. I've probably said too much. I reviewed this documentary though. I fucking hated it, and I'd love to get into why next week. So I've been watching that, and I did this thing.
Does it involve snow?
No.
Oh, good. It's not that one. Phew. Good, because I share an agent with that one. It could have been awkward.
It is one of those things where I actually watched it twice to make sure I wasn't just in a bad mood when I watched it, and I wasn't. It's not done.
Oh, I love that.
Right.
Isn't it a
gift always more
when you
fun
watch something that you absolutely really hate that you've got to review? It's just
I think so. But also it's like, I see what they're doing and I don't think it works. I'm going to just walk people through. I think sometimes people think that all you do for a living is like shit on things, and it's not true. It's like, if you are going to do a documentary about this subject in this year, you don't do it like this. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, well, that's fair.
The other thing I would say, not in terms of what I'm up to this week, but I saw the new Creed film, Creed 3.
Good. Did you enjoy
it? Loved it. I actually watched it a few weeks ago because I was supposed to interview Michael B. Jordan, and it fell through. That sometimes happens. So I had to go and see it like of an afternoon in central London, and it's really good. I thought the second one was a bit of a mess.
Boxing film.
Yeah, I thought the second Creed was a bit of a mess. First one I loved. This one is back to business, and it's got Jonathan Majors in it, who is in the new Ant-Man film. He is the sort of like the next Adam Driver, basically. He's like a Juilliard trained actor.
They've both just gone viral, haven't they? Have you seen the viral clip of them staring at a lady's backside?
No, respectfully or not?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, they were at the junket, and a very nice woman was interviewing them. They got along great, like really interesting interview, and they obviously both thought she looked quite fine. She got up and walked off, and just both of them, it was delightful choreography. Both of them just went.
Oh my god, I'm going to look that
independent, without either of them noticing. Just kind of like just did the ass check.
Oh my god. I wonder how many people have done that to me when I've left those junkets.
Countless.
No one.
Countless.
No one.
Your wagon is well ridden.
It's fat as a pancake.
Okay, gang. Thanks so much for listening. Hang on a sec. Someone did email in. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys. Let me just. I can't remember if it was just praise. If it is, it's getting read out straight away.
Yeah, please. I hope they're not mean. I get very nervous about people saying mean things about me.
Have a look. 2nd of March, here we go. From George Hanselman. Hey, George, thank you very much for writing in to Dragoncast at daftdoris.com. Hi, Jamie. Hi, Chris. I've loved listening to your rewatch thoughts. I've just recently finished rewatching the whole show, and I'm excited to hear your thoughts on future episodes. Just finished your Hard Home episode, and in regards to the White Walkers and Dragonfire that Chris mentioned regarding story rules and things like that, we love a bit of a clarification, so thank you very much. In The Door, which was episode 5 of season 6, we see the Night King and the White Walkers suppress a ring of fire outside the Three-Eyed Raven's place that Bran is in, whereas their undead followers can't get past the fire. I took that as foreshadowing that if they met the dragons, that the fire wouldn't work on the walkers directly. Love stuff like that. Sometimes only noticeable on a rewatch. Thanks again for the podcast. Hope you're both well.
Interesting.
Well. Thanks, George.
Yeah, we are. Thanks so much for that. But also in Hard Home, we saw one of the walkers kind of jump through some fire as well, right?
Yeah, and not only jump through the fire, but the fire kind of thought, fuck this, let's get out of here. Yeah, it kind of parted.
And that must be because they're so cold. The temperature around them is so low that the fire doesn't burn or something.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. Interesting. Yeah, I appreciate that.
Good knowledge. Thank you, George. Appreciate that.
Also, love the idea of doing a whole rewatch. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, there've been weeks where I thought, man, should we have done it? But then, no.
It would have taken.
Well, we would have only been on. We'd have only been like somewhere at the beginning of season 3 maybe by now. Which would have
we've done 3 a season, and I'm 4, so when we're on season 5, so that's 15, 6 episodes. We'd be halfway through season 2.
Oh God. Yeah. I'm not down with that. I'm not down with that. I have to say that would have been quite hard. People already looking ahead to season 6. How on earth can we choose just 3 episodes?
That's interesting.
Yeah, that was from Julia. Thanks, Julia. Ronnie got in touch saying, hey, like your revisits, just a note, you do remember you did 4 episodes of season 4 and very worthwhile, but also the night pose. Oh, they're saying the Night King pose, reviving the dead. Take a look at The Undertaker. They nicked it straight from him. That's true.
Oh, wait, do you think all of the White Walkers are actually based on wrestlers?
Based on WWE legends. Yeah, I think it probably is. Right. Okay. we are heading off now. Thank you so much. We will speak to you next week about Game of Thrones Season 5, Episode 10, which is called, oh my God, what's it bloody called? Oh, goodness me. Hold on a second.
I have to say, just while you look that up, I've been looking at Season 6. I think it's going to be really hard to do 3, and I think it might
don't you start.
I think it might be really hard to do 4.
I'm going to say, every time you've gone, oh, it's going to be really tough. I can't remember if it's Season 5 is going to be hard. Season 6 is going to be really
Season
hard.
5 has been hard.
Yeah, but we've picked 3 great episodes. Or the listeners did. So,
we have.
So Mother's Mercy is the one next week.
Yes.
Which
is the name of I think that's the poison that the faceless men give people, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it is. Yes, that's right. Or is it? Yeah, you're right. Okay, well, let's talk about that next week. We'll do a bit of a debrief about Season 6. But there is a lot that happens. But, I'm sure listeners will agree with me. Chris has been slagging off Season 6 for quite some time.
I have, but I'm looking through it now.
See how he defends it. Let's see how he defends it.
I'm
Negative
just saying.
Uni.
No, I'm looking forward to it. I think this all looks. There's a lot to talk about.
Looks pretty solid.
6.
There is.
Yeah,
there is.
Okay.
Guys, have yourselves a great week. OA episodes, part 2, episodes 1 and 2 out later on this week. Until then, Dracarys, Chris.
Dracarys.